You're listening to the RMPodcast, the official podcast of Red Moon Productions. Here are your hosts, Brandon Davidson, Keith Cheatham, and Sean Sebastian. Enjoy.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Red Moon Podcast, live every single Tuesday night right here on all your favorite social media networks at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. You can catch the audio version downloadable on Thursday nights at midnight. That's right. I am one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside, no, he's out again. But it's his son's birthday, so we'll give him a little slack.
Happy birthday!
You ain't gonna say his name, are you?
I don't. See, it's when you get the children. Sometimes I don't know. If it's like I don't want to share, But
we probably
Sean knows. I think we have. Well, I know Sean has.
He said his name.
He said his name.
I agree. It's like you don't want to.
It's his birthday. I want him to have a nice, peaceful birthday.
Yeah, I don't want all them fangirls. Writing in all those from the.
Well, Sean don't want all them girls. Trying
from
to
his class
to sully his son's good name. So you can't trust anyone.
Maybe
this
that's
day and
the only present that he wanted. Maybe he just wanted some
Happy
girls from his 5th grade class.
Oh,
I assume
maybe,
that's what grade. I don't know. I'm not sure. I really don't know.
We don't. Yeah, he don't know. But I think that sounds about right.
Does that sound right? Based on the 8, I don't know.
I'm pretty sure.
But
it has to be 4th or 5th. But I don't know if he's.
They're probably all on the TikToks now at that age.
TikTok.
I don't think Sean's son is. I think it'd be over his dead body. He wouldn't allow that.
Yeah, I don't think he has a TikTok.
That Sean knows of.
That would be a problem.
You'd have to. I mean, I had a MySpace secretly when I was younger, and my parents never found out.
Well, they will
now. They
probably
didn't really care.
If they ever watch the show, they're going to know.
I think they knew that as long as hey, all right, I'm 30. I'm 34 years old, guys. Well, soon to be 34.
That don't mean they can't bend you over their knee and give you a spanking.
They're gonna whoop me. Get the belt out.
That's right.
But no, I mean, hey, look, you kept those things private. I had some AIM conversations. Honestly, AIM wasn't that bad. I mean, chat rooms were bad, but AIM, you actually had to know.
Yeah, like Instant Messenger was fine because that was the direct person that, they gave you their name, their username, and then, So, I mean, random chat rooms where you don't know who you're speaking to are fun, but
it's like that.
Not
which
good.
It's canceled now. They got rid of it, but that Omegle or
Omegle, I think. Omegle, I think Omegle, something like that. I don't know.
That one, man. I would see stuff on Instagram stories and
just random whatever. Some stuff was funny, but some stuff is just also like you don't know what type of
very
crazy, creepy person you might run into. Yeah,
a bunch of teenagers getting on there, and I mean, just social media in general.
Well, that is.
Yeah. It's funny because we've been talking about this for years, since the dawn of social media. And here we are, young as we are, but we're not young anymore. We're old fogies.
It's as I said, on the it applies in real life and on the internet. Don't talk to strangers. I mean,
that's true. That's true.
It's like don't give out your personal information. Don't share
what if you're
images,
ordering
photos,
in the drive-thru?
So don't talk to
talking
them.
To a stranger.
You say, hey, is there anybody in there working that I know? And if they're like, well, who do you know? And I'm like, nobody.
You've already
works
talked
here.
to them.
Yeah. Oh, dang. Yeah.
You can't do it.
Crap.
Can't bet managers.
It's like you pull up and you're like, I'm not talking to anyone right now. I'm just saying that I really wish I had a
Frosty and a large fry. Yeah. That's all I want.
I'm just saying. If somebody were to
sir, this is McDonald's.
Make that.
Don't talk to me.
Just drive off.
And then you just drive off. That's it.
Yes.
Crazy.
That sounds like something we would have done, and if we had thought about it back then.
It's true.
Gosh.
There's a lot of things, though, that I see now on social where I'm like, we definitely did that when we were younger and way better, too.
We just didn't film it and post it online.
No. And in fact, that's what made it even better. We had memories.
Because who wants to leave evidence? It's like this generation's stupid. It's like everybody knows what you did. You can't deny it.
But you get those 5 seconds of fame,
You do.
Yeah, I went from 15 minutes to just 5 seconds now. And
it is.
Because then there's another person doing something stupid.
Absolutely. That's like the Chick-fil-A sauce girl. Like, she just came and went.
I honestly now I don't even wait. Who is that? I don't.
The
know
one that do you want Chick-fil-A sauce with that? It was a meme for
I don't know.
Yeah.
See, this is how dated I am. Yeah. I just don't know the current day stuff. I am an old fogey. I'm an old soul.
Literally, it happened like last month, and now apparently,
which is sad that I don't even know a month-old trend. Yeah, it's bad. But the trends do come and go.
They do. They come and go. They come and go.
And honestly, as much as we're talking about trends, I thought this show was going to be a light news.
It started out like that way, but then
like 5 hours of the day, I started.
It's still all stuff that actually kind of correlates with each other, so that's helpful, I guess.
Sort of. You just sent this. We kind of brought it up last week. So, some of these. I'm just run through.
Okay. The one I just sent doesn't, but it's also
Lori Beth Denberg's finally coming out, accusing Dan Schneider of lewd sexual conduct by showing her pornography.
Yeah.
So she's coming forward on that.
That's not in our headlines. That literally just
no, none of this stuff.
I think like 20 minutes before the show.
Everything I'm about to mention is just stuff that
I didn't think there was anything major that wasn't in the headlines other than that.
Which apparently this is old news. But Amazon confirmed its Tomb Raider series.
Yeah, I didn't consider that major news. Is why I wasn't thinking about it.
But I'm just talking.
It is. Yeah.
I'm just rolling it all out.
Yeah.
Amazon has confirmed its Tomb Raider series for Prime Video. Star Phoebe Waller-Williams is writer.
Phoebe Waller-Bridge.
Or sorry,
Waller-Williams.
Oh, I'm thinking of what's her name?
I don't know.
She's a hottie. Something Waller-Williams, I think.
I don't know that one.
There's a something Waller-Williams.
I can Google.
If you look up Waller-Williams,
I'm sure she would pop up.
I think there is.
Waller-Williams.
But she is going to be the new Laura Croft, I guess.
Well, the only no, she's writing.
Or writing, executive producing.
She's producing and writing, which, that's actually, her career started as a writer, so that makes sense to me. I know she acts now, too.
She couldn't make it as the next Indiana Jones.
She couldn't be the female Indiana Jones, so she's going to be the actual female equivalent, or write for the female equivalent. Because,
I had some...
Tomb Raider was...
huge.
The only thing when I Google Waller-Williams is Waller-Williams Environmental.
No, it's something Waller-Williams.
Yeah, I don't know.
I know there's a name associated with it. Put Waller-Williams actress or something like that. I don't know. I could have swore there was someone with that name.
I have no idea.
But then there's also the two huge trailers dropped today. The teaser for what I consider to be something I'm definitely looking forward to, House of the Dragon Season 2. We are finally getting that.
No. That is just the lesser of the fantasy series that had trailers dropped today.
Oh, really?
Nobody cares about House of the Dragon.
No, everybody
Rings
cares
of
about
Pooh.
That's it.
They also dropped a trailer, and it was glorious.
It's funny that House of the Dragon.
Yeah, I actually didn't watch that one because I'm actually excited about that one, and I will watch it. I'm excited about season 2, so I didn't need to watch it to remain excited. I did watch Rings of Pooh because I just wanted to see how glorious it would be. And
I'm just shocked that
it was everything I expected.
Sauron turning into Elsa and freezing everything.
Here's the thing. Within the concept of what he's capable of, it's like, but it's just presented terribly.
Yes,
well, he's
but it just looked terrible.
Yes,
and not only that, I'm like,
I said within the concept of what he's capable of, it's like, would he be capable of that?
Why would he?
That's what I'm saying. He could. I just don't understand. He
could turn into a puppy then.
Within what context? He's a shapeshifter. He is. That's what I'm saying. He's basically a sorcerer. He's a god. He is. He's like a demigod or angel. He's a fallen angel. So it's like he has the capability, but there is within a realm of logic and
why
and physics. Yes, there's a why to when you just do things for whatever, then it takes away from the story.
But the thing is so I did find it funny that House of the Dragon premieres, the season 2 premieres in June, and the teaser for Rings of Pooh they both dropped the same day. But that one, where they both came out, first seasons came out in tandem in the fall.
Yeah, and then the trailers for season 2.
The trailers drop on the same day, but then, of course, Rings of Pooh is coming out in August. So it's kind of like, well, we don't have to run neck-and-neck competition, because when season one of both shows first dropped, they were running neck-and-neck every week in terms of ratings, and House of the Dragon was dominating. Rings of Pooh. Rings of Pooh was falling off week after week.
Way more ratings than even with them not, because it's not like they were like on live TV at the same time. Like they dropped on I mean, House of the Dragon it airs on HBO, but still drops on Max. Whereas Rings of Pooh obviously just drops on Amazon Prime. So it's like, it's not like one of those things where like they're airing in the same time slot and they're fighting for live ratings, but it's still one of those funny things where, yeah, House of the Dragons killed it. And I think that'll still be the same. Even a month later, I just don't think Rings of Pooh is, even with them trying to act like they are course correcting the way the language they use now about season 2 and what they're doing. I'm like, at this point, it's almost too late. Well, it is too late. I'm not going to say it's almost too late. You can't course correct because the mistakes you made in season 1 weren't mistakes of a nature that, if you're capable of course correcting from the mistakes of season 1, then I don't think you would have ever made those mistakes in season 1.
Correct.
It's one of those things of you weren't faithful to the story. You didn't act like you even knew anything about the lore. It's just they took a big crap all over everything. So it's like, you would have never done that if you're capable of course correcting to begin with. I'm just like, I just don't. Yeah, I don't trust everything I saw in the trailer. Looked bad.
We have no faith at all in the hands that this is left.
Someone even made it. I laughed. It was because it was a good comment. It was a good point because within the lore of the Rings of Power and how they were made, like Sauron the Deceiver, like he was called Sauron the Deceiver, helped. Like obviously, like he was a part of why every ring was made because he secretly made one to rule them all. But he was the one that kind of showed them and inspired them, and like through deception, because as they didn't know who he was like, here's these rings and this and that. So now it's like they kind of didn't go that route at the end of season 1, but now it looks like they're backtracking because they show him in his more elfin form. But it's the same exact actor, just with like the long blonder hair.
It looks terrible.
And it's like, so, and you see like Celebrimbor like look at him in awe, and it's like, is this insinuating that now we're going to get Sauron the Deceiver, who's going to act like their friend, but they don't recognize that it's the same exact man with long blonde hair? Like, it's
hopefully not. Hopefully, especially with how they played the reveal at the end of season 1. Yeah. Yes, we watched all the episodes. But if
they're going to be faithful to the actual lore, that's the way it should go. He should be like their friend, and they think, oh, this guy is helping us, and it's like, but that's how it's like. So if they're trying to course correct to make the lore like the way it's supposed to be, it doesn't even make sense with season 1 because you've already revealed him as the villain. And it'd be, since he can change like the way he looks, it would make more sense if you hired a new actor to play the.
You know what's funny?
But they didn't do that.
As soon as I saw him in the white wig,
yeah,
and even before I watched the House of the Dragon like season 2 trailer, I immediately thought of I'm forgetting his name. The actor's name. He played
Matt Smith.
Matt Smith.
Yeah. Don't you say it. You could say it. He was a good Doctor Who.
Okay, all right. I was just saying
that was back when he was good. That was back when it was good.
I'm not even talking about the new release. I'm not, because I had two more other pieces of info that are not part of our
Doctor
headlines.
Who has a 97 on Rotten Tomatoes. It's great. It's fantastic. Everybody loves it.
That's all we're gonna say about it. There's nothing bad to say.
All the critics said it's amazing and it's stunning. And anytime you see the word stunning or brave associated with anything,
you immediately know it's loaded.
I'm just like, okay.
You already know. But no, we have, these are not part of our normal headlines, so I figured I'd mention them. Edgar Wright's in talks to direct a Sydney Sweeney-led Barbarella movie.
Yeah.
That's pretty huge.
I'm okay with that.
I mean, I think anybody who's a man that's straight is okay with that.
I mean, I like Edgar Wright, and I like that idea. So
I mean, it's
Sweeney
like,
hey,
Barbarella.
Let's see, yeah.
And also, I mean, our favorite actor Nicolas Cage could be coming to a live-action Spider-Man noir series.
I'm not opposed to it, other than I'm just tired of beating franchises to death. So
I know.
like, I don't.
Not to mention, this is on Prime as well.
Yeah.
And considering
because it would be a Sony property, so like they would go to whatever streaming service I guess is the highest bidder. But it's one of those things where I'm still not against franchises. I just want them to have a purpose for existing. It's like if you're going to make something like another one, the news Peter Jackson is and
I was going to say our Rings of Pooh talk did kind of lead into the main
and
headline
that is
of
a
tonight.
headline, and we'll get to that. But Peter Jackson will be producing a new Lord of the Rings movie, and we'll go into more details.
Fran Walsh
yeah. I say
Boyens.
We're going to go into more detail, but I just. Again, like if it turns out to be great and they do it justice, I'm fine with it. But anymore, I'm just skeptical because I'm like, does this need to exist? Not really. So why are we doing it? I don't know, other than money. And if it's just another soulless film for profit, I don't care.
They have the property rights, and they're going to use it to their full advantage.
And I feel that for everything. It's like, and again, I'm not like. I'm someone that, I've loved Marvel for a long time. There's thousands of comics. They're ongoing, but I would say the new ones suck. I love One Piece. There's over 1,000 episodes of that. So it's not a thing that I'm just opposed to anything that's long running, as much as if it's going to be long running, it still needs to maintain its soul and its actual depth and have things of value to it, not just be churned out because you want to make a profit and it's this soulless thing that you get nothing edifying from.
All of those things to end with the fact that
the review
Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes finished at number 1 at the box office, made a worldwide grossing of $190+ million.
I think it was the highest opening for the franchise,
which is pretty insane. But
it's got some decent reviews on both sides. It's I think 83 critically and 78 audience score.
I think it's even higher critically.
It might be.
I think it's like in the 90s, I thought.
Oh, last time I saw it was not in the 90s.
Oh, maybe not. Maybe more have come out. Maybe that was just... I saw it on Wednesday of last week, technically before...
Oh, see, anything before Friday is just like a little bit of... Yeah, it's down to 80 now.
Okay.
So 80 critic score, 79, so that actually went up a tick. 79 audience score. But still, that's still, not bad, but not like knocked out of the park either.
But what did we think about it? How did it fare in our minds? Mm-hmm. Well, here is our review of Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes.
Summer blockbuster season is here, and while The Fall Guy wasn't exactly the kickoff Hollywood was expecting, this week's new release, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, sees the largest opening weekend for the Apes franchise. Raking in the dough and earning the top spot at the box office and promoted as the best film of the franchise, did Kingdom truly earn its top spot, or have audiences once again given Hollywood more reason to continue making shoddy franchise film after franchise film? Directed by Wes Ball, whose previous directing credits consist of the Maze Runner trilogy, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes has been stated by Ball to be the start of a new trilogy that fits into the legacy of the previous 3 films. Though recently, the film's producers have stated plans for the franchise to reach 9 films, because all franchises must be made of multiple trilogies and never-ending sequels. Taking place many generations after War for the Planet of the Apes, Caesar has died and his teachings have faded with him. Humans have become feral thanks to the virus that originally brought intelligence to the apes, and apes have become the dominant species on the planet. The film focuses on a new lead, Noah, a chimpanzee performed by Owen Teague, the member of a tribe of apes who specialize in falconry. When Noah's tribe is attacked and enslaved by an unknown group of apes hunting down a rogue human girl, Noah sets out on a journey to save his family, teaming with Nova, played by Freya Allen, the human girl whose presence brought the rival apes to his village. Choosing to jump several generations into the future, Kingdom shows the decay of Caesar's teachings and brings the franchise that much closer to the planet seen in the original Charlton Heston feature. With plenty of Easter eggs and nods to the original movie and references to the previous Caesar trilogy, Kingdom tries to fill in a bit more history and the gap from the fall of humanity to a planet completely ruled by apes, but unfortunately doesn't have anything new to say or much purpose outside of a standard story set in the Planet of the Apes franchise. Noah is a fine new lead, the stereotypical self-doubting hero who must take the hero's journey to become who he's meant to be. Nova represents the last of humanity, their rightful mistrust of apes, and also the stereotypical ideas of a selfish and mistrustful humanity. New villain Proximus, played by Kevin Durand, is a generic, charismatic villain wanting the secrets of a military bunker so as to become even more like man, learning technology that the apes in the previous movies already understood. Yes, somehow the fall of man also regressed the apes, as none of them understood things like weapons and electricity, despite having used them in previous films. And while much of this can certainly be explained by the passing years and the fading of Caesar's teachings, the movie doesn't focus on these things. The loss of Caesar's ideology and its impact on what would become the world the apes create by the time we reach the original movie would have been a well thought out movie with rich themes, but the film only briefly touches on these things. I guess you can't do too much in one film, otherwise you wouldn't be able to stretch the franchise out into 9 movies. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes isn't a bad movie. It's a much better addition to its franchise than any other Disney-owned property, better than the Jurassic World sequels and the last few Fast and the Furious films. That said, it's still the bare minimum of good, and one wonders where do we go from here and why. While the movie held my attention its entire run, and I enjoyed a fair few aspects such as the falconry plotline and Noah's learning of how the world he lives in came to be, the most interesting parts of the story are not explored. While the falconry does play a larger role in the story, it too becomes predictable and lackluster when its part in the climax arrives. Outside of Noah and his understanding of Caesar and the roles humans and apes once had in the world, the movie is just a straightforward hero's journey that ends predictably and sets up more questions than it answers. And truthfully, I'm just tired of massive franchises that only ever hint at the future instead of giving us a full fleshed out film in and of itself. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is fine, but as another entry into a long-running franchise, it just never quite convinced me that it was necessary. I give Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes 2.5 out of 4 stars.
I mean, that's not terrible.
I don't think it was bad. I don't think it was a terrible movie. Here's the thing. I walked out, and I will say, Sean's not here to really give his star rating. I know when we both walked out, I think we were both kind of thinking maybe 3 stars, but then we started discussing things that, that at first I think we were thinking we're nitpicky, but then when we got into it, it's like, no, it's really not that nitpicky. Those were some legitimate problems with the movie. And that's why I think ultimately I settled on 2.5. I don't know where he has settled. I don't know if he would give it 3, if he would go lower. He can't defend his point of view at this point. I just know that we both walked out thinking that it wasn't a bad movie, but it just wasn't... compared to the last two, I might give it a little bit of an edge over Rise, which was the first one with James Franco, just because that one was kind of dull until the very end. But even then, I would say while Rise was dull to the very end, I think it still had more things to say, a more important thing to say about the franchise, as it was kind of what led to the Rise of the Apes. Then this one I didn't feel like really had anything to say. It may have been a little bit more entertaining than Rise, but ultimately there wasn't any message, any theme, any part of the story that I felt like we haven't seen or gotten from any of the other movies. So
same.
And that's I think my biggest qualm walking away from it was, other than some other problems I had with it, that ultimately while I didn't hate it and it held my attention, I also just don't really see why this is a movie I need to see as part of the Apes franchise. It wasn't like some important piece that I was like, oh, without this movie, it's like, no, if this movie never existed, it would still be the same story that it already is as a franchise.
Yeah, I mean, to me, my biggest flaws with the film were pacing and interest. I mean, overall, I just felt like I was kind of bored throughout.
Yeah.
Even the set pieces in this day and age. Look, you don't have to have huge explosions or what Marvel has turned into, which is just CGI dump fests. You don't have to have that to intrigue me, but you have to have something that is somewhat creative that makes me think that you took the time to develop how it was going to play out on screen and what makes it look interesting than anything else I might have seen in, the many decades and the century of film that we've had. That's the idea of going to the cinema, is that I'm seeing something I haven't seen. And granted, something to be said continually for the, new trilogy we got just, several years ago versus this now new one they're not only trying to make, but they're trying to make it into a non-film saga.
I think the 9-film saga was including the other 3.
Right. But I mean,
so it'd be 3 trilogies is what I think
we're
they're going.
We're basically on the prequels, right?
Yeah.
And I know they're not prequels,
but
the prequel trilogy.
It is another
Wars.
roadmap of we're going to have multiple trilogies, which is stupid, because the director of this one did say he planned this one out as a trilogy. So I'm assuming with the producer saying 9 films, I guess they're going for 3 trilogies.
And I'm sorry, but you have to engage with me from the outset and get me hooked. The reason Rise kind of gives a little bit more it gets a little more leeway in my book is because it was the start of a new franchise, or the start of picking up the franchise, since we had seen it from Charlton Heston.
The 70s, yeah. 70s. The last one I think was 74.
So if that's the case, all I know is that that was our re-entry in. It was okay.
I mean, technically the last one was Tim Burton's reboot, but that one was terrible.
Yeah. And again, I think Sean might defend that one. I don't know.
No,
He's talked about it before.
We talked about it after and it was like, this one was definitely still better than that one.
Right. But I mean, it's just interesting to me because I know people went and saw this. Mm-hmm. It's sad that Fall Guy came out last week and is not going to get any love.
I think that's what upsets me most. I don't hate this movie at all.
It's lackluster.
But if you have to see any movie if you had to choose, go see Fall Guy, because that was an amazing movie and it deserves to be making the money that Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is making right now.
But because it is a franchise and because it has that weight behind it, and because truthfully, this is resting on the reputation that I would say the last Transformers was resting on with Bumblebee. It had, if you look at, even with Rise, the beauty of Rise, Dawn, and War of the Planet of the Apes, all of those movies, it got better. Each one was better than the last. And when you come to this franchise, I've still got to see it. I get we're starting from a new perspective. We're starting over with a new story. But you got to give me meat there that is on the bone that I'm savoring. And that was not in this movie. Characters come and go way too fast. I'm not going to spoil anything. But a lot of characters are introduced in kind of surface level. They're kept surface level the whole time. You don't really get a chance to dive in deep or get attached to any one particular. About the best character in the movie is, at least the one bright spot, is Noah, who is the main character.
Which is good.
Yeah. But other than that, when it comes to the relationship he has with his friends in the film, the relationship he has with the mentor, the relationship he has with the girl that you see in the trailer, other people that are mentioned.
It is all fairly shallow,
the main bad guy. It's all surface level. Even the twist, and again, I'm not going to spoil anything, the twist that is kind of revealed in the second trailer. If you watch the final trailer of Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, the release trailer, it kind of spoils one of the main things that I think they were trying to keep hidden about the female character, Freya Allen's character. And again, I don't want to say too much, but that could have been a way better twist and played out in such a better way had you let it sink in a little bit and had there been given some purpose behind it. So much of this film just kind of seemed like a lot of good ideas jumbled together with none of them really formulated in such a way that it drove me to want to see what was coming next and be interested. And I hate to say it, that it really, especially with the way it ended on a low note for me. They were trying to make it some kind of heavy-handed, very emotional impact of, again, this divide between apes and humans. And I hate to say it, but it didn't land with me. It was the final scene with the humans was completely
I hated
terrible.
The last scene in the movie I did not like at all.
It was laughingly bad, especially, if there's going to be one thing I'm going to nitpick in this movie, it's going to be the use of some of the technology they depend on and how they're using it was very just it was lackluster in thought of how they executed it, and I just thought it was very
it
poor
wasn't
writing.
Also really how you would use that equipment.
That's exactly what I mean. It was lackluster in the way they wrote it to be used. Exactly.
It was like, that's not
it's not functionally right.
I wouldn't, for me, I wasn't bored throughout the movie. I was intrigued enough that I kept wanting to see where it was going, but then I think a little bit of the disappointment set in once you get towards the end and I realized, this isn't going anywhere, really. And that's when, upon a rewatch, I feel like, I might be bored, because now that I know, I was intrigued enough to be like, okay, what's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? And then when nothing ever, great really happens, I feel like if I rewatch it, I'm just going to know. It's like, well, this is all going to kind of, so far it leads to nothing. It's like, you could say it's a setup for a new trilogy, but I'm like, that's also a problem too. And I mentioned it in the review. It's like, I'm tired of, Marvel does that with every movie now. It's like, this is just a build up for the next thing. And this is just, it's like, okay, I'm tired of just a build up to the next.
Never a payoff.
I just want a movie that's a complete film in and of itself. That doesn't mean it can't build towards bigger things, but the movie itself still needs to be whole and complete
not
in and
even
of itself.
Saying he planned this and this was years ago, but look, that the beauty of the Dark Knight trilogy is Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, and Dark Knight Rises are all cohesive. They all revolve around. They all have remnants of the previous film, but none of them are cannot, none of them have to be watched to enjoy the other.
They're all independent films, but they also are all three parts of the same whole. And I mean, that is great. And it's like, it doesn't have to be like Lord of the Rings where it's clearly one story told over 3 films. But at the same time, you still need like the connective tissue and the depth of theme and characters that you want to watch it. And that even if there is a minor conflict in the first movie that gets resolved, but there's a greater conflict that'll be resolved over the course of the 3 films, that's fine. You just need something that connects them and that makes it worth watching.
Yeah, and that's the weird thing. This one, in that regard, seemed like a singular film. Mm-hmm. Most of what is introduced as far as the antagonist and the problem
in and of itself, but the singular film is very dull.
But that's what I'm saying. Exactly. This bigger open-ended question of what comes next is truly that. It's so open-ended that you have no lingering idea of what they're going to lead you into. Plus, most of what's wrapped up in this film, you could almost care less about. I mean,
well, because we already know where it's going. I mean, we did with the original. Like, we know that obviously the planet is conquered by the apes, and humanity is basically enslaved by them by the time you reach the Charlton Heston movie. So it's like, spoiler alert if you haven't seen the movie from 1968, but it's one of those things where it's like, since we already know where it's going, part of what made the newer trilogy with the Caesar trilogy interesting was you got to see how that came to be. And even though it doesn't end where the original begins, it still ends in a way that you see humanity lost the war. It's now the apes are now rising up, and that's you know exactly where it's going. You don't really need all that detail filled in. So now if you're going to make these new movies that are filling in the in-between details over the course of years, you have to give me it's like Solo with Star Wars. That was a movie that we all thought, why do we need this? Like, we know like where Solo came from and where he ends up. The in-between is not something we need to know. But then when we watched the movie, we actually liked it because it did offer enough interesting stuff to be like, okay, is it necessary exactly? No, but it gives you enough new interesting tidbits and is a good movie that it does fill in gaps and it's fun to watch. So that's okay. With this, I was just like, this doesn't offer up any new information or anything I think that is necessary that adds to the overall franchise. It's just a movie that, while not bad, like I would say most people are going to watch it and be entertained as they are. For me personally, I just want something a little bit more.
Yeah, and that's exactly how I left the theater. I mean, and look, I'm talking about all the things I didn't like about it. It's not one that I probably will revisit again. I got it with the first viewing, and I was fine with that. I didn't think it was terrible in terms of terribly acted, terribly written, none of that. I mean, it was lackluster overall. I ended up settling on 2, but a very average 2 stars at best. I think it's one that is not moving the needle forward at all for the franchise, and in terms of just cinema in general. And look, you could say, well, does every single movie have to do that? No, but one, we just got a great example of a movie doing that last week with Fall Guy. Mm-hmm. So you have it literally, it's contemporary of a big blockbuster last week coming out, which sadly it's fizzled, but a big action flick that turned out to be a breath of fresh air, juxtaposed also with this being a franchise film. So you also have the comparison of all the other movies in the franchise to compare it to.
Yeah.
So the fact that this one is a lackluster entry on my part, it just doesn't make me feel invigorated for what's next for this series. I just don't care. I mean, I'm not nearly as worn out or driven mad like I am with Marvel, but that's also because this really only has 6-7 movies in the franchise.
It's not like they're just pumping out 2 or 3.
How many? Was there only one Charlton Heston?
He was only in one, but of the original, there were 5 of the original movies.
Oh, okay, so this is the 9th already?
Yeah, this would be the 9th, if you like including them all, excluding Tim Burton's mockery that doesn't connect to anything. Gosh, Mark Wahlberg, man. I like the guy, but he has some bad movies.
Guys, we found an ape.
Yeah,
no, I'm just kidding. That was
about right.
Yeah. But no,
where I come from, humans are the dominant species.
But no, all I can say is, I just wasn't too entertained by this movie, and I mean, if you want to see what's going on, check it out in the theater. I think obviously they're going to be more than happy with the success that this film has made, and clearly they had already had the idea of doing others in the works. But the performance it had from this first weekend, no doubt sold the fact we're getting another one of these.
I think it's funny because it's another Fox holdover film, and it's watching it. My overall opinion now was I was like, This is a movie that I would have been more okay with if this had been like a straight to streaming film, because that's almost the quality it feels like. It's not bad, but it also doesn't really feel like something made for theaters, in my opinion.
True.
It reminded me in that sense of Prey, which I actually liked a little bit better, which did release solely on Hulu, the Predator prequel. Mm-hmm. And that one I was like, oh, it was kind of a return to its roots type thing that I was like, okay, I don't mind this. And it's like almost because that one was successful on Hulu. Like I know the new Alien movie they're making, I think was originally supposed to be a streaming film, and then they decided to make it theatrical after Prey was successful. And I think this was always supposed to be theatrical, but part of me also wonders, especially since Wes Ball was the director and he's basically a no-name. He did the Maze Runner. I'm like, was this maybe supposed to
doing The Legend of Zelda?
Yeah.
But I want to mention it because you're talking about, this is a huge franchise.
Yeah.
He's obviously gotten the box office back that's made the studio
happy.
No,
they're definitely going to consider him a success.
The fact that he's tied to The Legend of Zelda, it's like...
I just almost wondered if this too was maybe in secret meant to be a streaming film, and then like they were like, no, we can push this to theaters.
I don't know. It didn't seem like that.
No, I really think like it was always supposed to be, but it just didn't feel like... I felt like this is a movie that if I had sat at home and watched on Hulu, I would have been like,
that's the sad thing, though. I agree. It felt like that, but I don't think they...
No, I don't think it was meant to be.
The sad thing is I don't think they meant or planned for it to be. They really did see this as like a big screen
I mentioned
spectacle.
the Alien film. Like, that one has, since production started, been fully intended as theatrical, so like it'll have all of the production value there. Like, it's not like they've switched it, but I'm just like, I just know it feels like some of the Fox holdover films, they were like, those franchises are dwindling, let's put them on,
if there's one,
streaming to boost those sales. Oh, people like it, let's actually, now we're going to put them back in theaters.
If there's one shining bright spotlight I could put on this film, just like the others, look, the CGI when it comes to the Apes is phenomenal.
Yeah.
There's no way around it. I honestly do think that this is, each film's work has only gotten better. And I
thought there was CGI in this that actually was bad, but not so much with the apes, just with some other scenes.
Some of the explosions,
some of the action scenes, some of the falconry scenes.
Yeah, I agree. Falcons.
Well, they're eagles, but they still like because I guess falconry is any predator bird, but even yeah, that's just the art of I don't know, art is the right word, but this whatever way of training birds. This is called falconry,
but ultimately, I thought, when it came to the apes, especially the baboon, fantastic.
But again, that's also technology that they've had and developed over time.
True, it may be something you're less impressed with if you've seen the other films. You obviously don't want to see.
I'm not saying that it's not doesn't take talent or skill. I just they already have a lot of those assets, so that helps. You know,
but also, I think this is one of those films that, again, I can only hope that. I think it's a weaker entry than Rise, considering when Rise came out and what it was trying to do.
Yeah.
And granted, I wasn't a huge fan of that movie either until, the very end. I thought it was kind of lackluster and kind of childish and, mediocre. But it is crazy that Dawn was such a huge leap forward for that franchise.
And then, War, both
so
of
I'm
those
just
are
like,
great.
The fact that you end on those two notes, I'm like, maybe, and who knows if it's going to be Wes Ball that returns for the other two. Maybe they probably will, since he had such a success with this one.
Maybe he'll be caught up with doing. Well, that's the thing. It's
who
like
knows?
It's like he might be too busy
honestly,
doing Zelda.
I don't know if in the last trilogy if it was the same director for. I thought each one had a different.
No, the last two were Matt Reeves.
So Matt Reeves did a phenomenal job in those last two,
which is who did the Batman. Because that's why I had. Which I don't dislike the Batman, but I didn't like it as much as his Apes movies.
Agreed. Agreed. It's not as memorable at all. Not a bad movie, but not as.
But he didn't do the. I don't remember who did Rise, but he did do the last.
But it is
two.
interesting if you think about it that with Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, maybe there's a chance that number 2 and number 3 in this trilogy will be that much of a leap forward.
Maybe it could be
Dawn of the Planet of the Apes and War of the Planet of the Apes.
They have to think of a good story worth telling, because right now I'm just like, I don't know what the point of this is. Like, you're making a new trilogy.
True. But and where I would argue, and I think we've both made this point, that this movie ends in a weaker position than Rise, because at least at the end of Rise, you have Caesar yelling no.
You do know where it's going.
You immediately are like, oh, wow, okay, this was just the genesis of at least one ape who gets the ability to say one word, and you're like, from there it's a domino effect.
Yeah.
And I liked that they just jumped so far ahead years-wise in the second one.
Well, even in the second one, they spoke very broken English. Like, and then by war, they were speaking pretty much like more full sentences. And I mean, I thought like even in this one, I'm like, okay, they don't
after generations.
Yeah, like that they're talking fine, but it's still not. I would say like a perfect like approximately. Like they still have some broken a little bit, but I was like it was believable to me as far as the apes and their evolution, and I'm like, yeah, I think where they're at is fine. I did
just the story elements were flat.
There were questions I had with like this gap in time where it's like obviously okay, so the people become more feral because of the virus. They set that up in war, so that's fine. I believe that, but then also a lot of the apes like no longer know how to use things that they were using in the last two, like the guns and weapons and electricity, and I'm like, so why did they no longer understand? Because even the ability to read, the orangutans like these are words that we kept because that's how. And I'm just like, somehow they lost that too, and I'm just like, why did that happen? And there's just a lot of questions that I
said baboon earlier, and I meant orangutan.
Oh, I didn't even catch that.
Yeah, I did.
I didn't even catch it.
I just now remembered that. But anyway, sorry, continue.
No, it's fine. He was actually one of the only other characters I like, and then I don't want to spoil anything. I almost did.
But I will. Well, he's one that I wish you get more screen time.
Yes, that they didn't give him as much screen time as what I thought they were going to.
And they didn't develop him as much as I thought they were going to.
Like, when he shows up, I'm like, oh, this is an interesting character.
Right.
And then
just the moment that he becomes interesting, it's like, oh, now he's not in the movie anymore.
Yeah, it's like, oh, well,
great.
Yeah. Yeah, but until they have, I think, a solid story that they want to know, like, where the direction's going and what they're telling, and that's my problem with all franchise films right now, is that they all are aimless. I feel like they're just another movie to be another movie, and for some people that's fine. That's why we still have all the Transformer movies we have. But to me, I just want something more when I watch a movie than just mindless entertainment. Like, yeah, the entertainment aspect's great, and I'm not saying I never enjoy mindless entertainment,
right?
But I just
and maybe, I don't know. It's funny. Maybe I'll kind of wrap this up into maybe the conversation that it comes with our Lord of the Rings conversation and that new movie, because
this is far better than Rings of Pooh.
yeah, but I meant the new movie coming out. But here's the thing.
We'll see with that too.
Ultimately, my point is that, I'll save it for that conversation because it deals both with this. It's franchises in general.
Yeah.
But to me, I'm just like, I agree with you. It's more of a, I don't have any use for these movies, and there's part of me that's like, is there this evil genius behind some of these producers or studios that's like, yeah, but there's still slasher flicks that were cheaply made, that were done because Freddy and Jason and them were popular.
Those petered out too.
Well, they did.
Eventually. I mean, it took time, but
they're endearing now. They're endearing long after they were gone for the sake of
not
being,
for necessarily being good. Like, I love the Nightmare on Elm Street movies.
Trust me, I know, but it's a beloved franchise and series that held up because of its endearing, like, cult classic status. Does that mean I want these franchises that actually have good movies to be running in the ground like that? No. But I'm just saying, is this an excuse to turn everything now, since we have these huge universes, into something that will be remembered generations down the road of like, oh, I remember seeing that as a kid, and that was a fun popcorn flick to go see with my family.
I know only time will tell, but I do feel like because
I didn't want to hold on.
Yeah, we'll get it. Yeah, we'll get into that.
I didn't want to drive that conversation right now.
Yeah.
Because we'll talk about it when we're talking about. Because honestly, we can get into the. We can roll the headline open and just start talking about it right now. Let's
go for it.
Let's do it. Yeah, I thought about maybe holding off, and because we got some streaming.
I mean, there's
news.
other headlines if you want to discuss them first. I don't mind.
Well, we do got to get one right off the bat.
Yeah, I feel like you should.
I should have mentioned this at the very top of the show, and I didn't. Roger Corman, a classic B movie director, passed away at the age of 98. And a lot of people remember him from just older.
Oh yeah, he helped out with some I'm trying to think. He had some iconic work. The one I know him from, which is more niche, is he was the director of the Fantastic Four movie that never got released. The Fox made it basically to retain the rights. Oh, you can find it. It's a fantastic. Talking about franchises that are remembered not for being good. It is endearing. I'll give it that. But it's and I know him specifically for that. I know he did have a hand in other things.
I mean, we're talking about. I mean, he was part of what helped turn out low budget classics like Little Shop of Horrors.
Yes. Okay.
And I knew he was the Crab Monster.
That one I don't know.
I don't know that one. But then he had other ones like Cat People. The great B movies, Black Scorpion, Bucket of Blood, Bloody Mama. But he was also he hired well-known filmmakers like Ron Howard, James Cameron, and Martin Scorsese.
I think that was the
part
thing
of the reasons that got their start.
Yeah, part of his biggest claim to fame in Hollywood was like basically giving start to a lot of big names, and he was friends with a lot of big names. Coppola is one. He actually had a small role in The Godfather Part 2. So it's I think. He is just an iconic figure in Hollywood that, no, he's not like, a name that everybody knows, like a household name.
No, but I think it definitely if you know of anything in the industry, you know his name. And also he's inspired plenty of other people, or at least helped usher in the talents of other people into the industry. And for someone who clearly did it for so many years of his life, it was clearly a labor of love. And he enjoyed making the movies that he did, whether people thought they were crap or they were just cheap B movies. He actually, that's part of what I think is great, is that he was able to take his time in Hollywood and do what he wanted with it.
So the list of directors he helped give a start to is Francis Ford Coppola, Ron Howard, Martin Scorsese, Joe Dante, James Cameron. So yeah, those are all very big names.
Very notable directors and all household names.
Yeah,
pretty much.
So
yeah. I mean, but I wanted to come on here with that bit of news that broke a little bit late.
It
last
is sad.
week.
I mean,
just another legacy.
It's one of those things where the actual iconic people, the actual people who built Hollywood, that was like the Hollywood people loved, are passing, and we're being left with the garbage. So
and now, because we teased it too much, I do want to jump into the main headline. We always kind of push it around, but yes, the new Lord of the Rings movie announced this past week that WB came out, Warner Brothers came out and said Fran Walsh, Philippa Boyens, Peter Jackson are set to produce and even have hands in writing.
Fran Walsh and Philippa Boyens are listed as the writers. Which I find it hard to imagine that if Peter Jackson's producing with them, that he won't help write. But,
I mean, well, it was...
But we don't know.
That was the same setup as Lord of the Rings.
That's true. That is true.
They mostly
he also directed those. He's not going to direct this one.
Which is being handed to Andy Serkis.
Which is interesting. He's not directed a movie I've liked yet, but...
he's also reprising his role as Gollum.
But yeah, the movie is about Gollum. The working title, which I hope changes, is just called Lord of the Rings: The Hunt for Gollum, and I'm like, yeah, that's fine as a working. It's as a working title, yeah, it's fine because it's generic. I'm just like, hopefully you all think of something better before you release it than that.
And not only that, but from what someone posted,
there's a fan made a movie that's the exact title.
Oh, it got struck. It already got copyright struck the moment this news broke.
Which is fun because it's older. It's
been out for years.
It's been out for a long time, yes.
And they were pissed. People were pissed because they were like, this has been out for years.
Not only did you steal the name from a fan-made movie, but now you're going to try to crack down on them after it's been out for years. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And yet we're supposed to be, turning up and thinking these people appreciate the work of Tolkien.
That's even more proof that you've run out of ideas. Because, yes, I mean, there is a, like, independent, like, with... Gandalf and Aragorn trying to hunt down Gollum before Sauron does, because he was the last person with the ring. Because you see in like the first movie, The Fellowship, when Gandalf's talking to Frodo, he's like, the enemy found Gollum first and tortured him, and then he gave the one name, which was Baggins, and that's what led. So basically it's going to be that story that Gandalf tells Frodo, but an entire movie.
Well, and it's funny because someone posted a picture of the paragraph from the book.
Yeah.
And they were like, this one paragraph is now going to be a 2-hour movie.
Yes.
And it's like, are you serious?
Well, that's what Rings of Power is. It's all...
Because
they don't have the rights to Silmarillion.
Exactly.
Yeah,
they don't have the rights to anything more than what we've already gotten in Lord of the Rings. I mean, in The Hobbit even.
And yes, there's plenty of stories in the appendices they can pull from, but the detail about those stories are like at best a couple pages. With something like this, it's a paragraph. So it's one of those things where it's like, it's not a story that's really necessary. That's part of why it's in the appendices, is just to kind of like, hey, this is what happened.
That's part of why it's in the Fellowship of the Ring for like 15 seconds.
Yes, because that's really all you need, is that they tried to find Gollum to figure out where the ring went, and unfortunately Sauron found him first. That's the whole story.
That's it.
You know what? They tried to make a video game about this too, and it was terrible.
And it flopped bigger than day two because it was a terrible game.
Because again, you're trying to stretch something out that, and again, I trust Peter Jackson for the most part, and that's why I'm willing to give it a little bit of a chance. But I'm just like, what? Why? Again, why do we need it? Why do I have a little bit more interest in the Rohirrim animated movie, just because there is a little bit more meat to that, and because it is just a war story, so there's not a whole
animated.
lot.
It's a different art style. Yeah. They're not trying to compete.
And presumably it's not going to be 3 hours long either. So
and look, while I agree with you, there's a little bit of hope, considering that you've got Andy Serkis returning. Mm-hmm. Although, questionable with him directing. But he did direct the second unit in a lot of the Hobbit portions. Now, granted, second unit director's different in the sense that he's still trying to match Peter Jackson's style, but also we know from the hell that was the Peter Jackson Hobbit movies and the production hell that those went through, and how 2 movies there got turned into 3.
Yeah.
Look, and I'll be one that says the Hobbits are not horrible movies, but they're definitely not Lord of the Rings.
I like
trilogy.
the Hobbit movies, but they're more. I don't want to call them guilty pleasures because I don't think they're bad, but they are not Lord of the Rings. Well, I said
the best thing you could say about the Hobbit is that if you watch the Hobbit before Lord of the Rings and you watch them all in order, every movie gets better.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, some people may argue that the last one is not that good, that it's full of a bunch of action that doesn't need to be, because yet again, the Battle of the Five Armies was a page in The Hobbit that's turned into a 3-hour movie.
Bilbo gets knocked out and then he wakes up after the battle's over. So
there's not a lot that's explained, or there's a lot more shown in the movie.
And that's also kind of Tolkien in general. He's never gone into great depth on like fights. Now that doesn't mean that fights don't last long in Lord of the Rings. It's just that the details in other areas.
Trust me, some of the best scenes in Lord of the Rings are Two Towers with Helm's Deep and the Pelennor Fields with
his detail is more in the politics behind the battle and war going on than the actual battle itself, which is fine. When Peter Jackson's making the movies, those pieces are still in the movies, but it's also a visual movie, so he also gave us fun battles to see as well,
right?
Which makes complete sense. With Battle of the Five Armies, you made a whole movie out of something that there was no information on, really.
To me, my problem after having the Hobbit trilogy, what we got, and knowing that they don't have any more rights to what we've already seen, especially with Rings of Pooh being out. And granted, you could say, oh, well, it's not the same people in control of it. It doesn't matter.
It's still the same idea of milking something that's not there.
There's nothing more to squeeze out of this. We've got every ounce of what is worth telling. The story that is worth telling is provided for us in all its entertainment factor in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and yes, I would even lump in the Hobbit trilogy in that. To me, that's one cohesive story. That's all we need from what material we already have. I'm all for them taking on something like the Silmarillion, if they
could get the rights to it.
If those rights were granted to them. But the fact that they're not, I have very, very little hope for this.
Yeah.
And the fact that it was announced and most everybody had the same kind of trepidation and kind of questionable, like, are you really? Like, we're at that point now where we're gonna
again, it seems like you're just trying to milk a franchise. It's like at this point,
it would be like them coming out with a mob movie and then saying, well, this is the sequel trilogy to The Godfather.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa. You're touching timeless classics.
Yeah.
Or even if Scorsese came out and was like, we're going to do a sequel to Goodfellas.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa, you've already told the story. Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Why are you piggybacking off of something that's a classic, that's a timeless classic? You don't do that.
Yeah.
And even if you can in an interesting way, then you take a different route like they're doing with the War of the Rohirrim. Or that's not what it's called. I forget what it's called. Is it the War of the Rohirrim?
I think it is.
Okay, it may be. The animated feature that's coming out in December. Like you take
the Lord of the Rings, the War of the Rohirrim. So yeah.
So I mean, you take a different approach in that regard, as opposed to what they're doing now. I just.
Because it's clear, and we already knew because David Zaslav openly said as much, but it's clear that it's like, okay, now you're just trying to milk a he said, well, there's all these untapped franchises we need to make more movies of. But again, like, when do you stop? Because that's a mindset of, well, we should be pumping out, like movies to, like, people love Lord of the Rings, so let's make War of the Rohirrim. Then we'll make a Gollum movie. Next, we're going to make a Tom Bombadil movie. We don't need to, but I mean, we might as well because we have the rights to it. And I'm like, at what point do you stop? Or do you just keep milking things that aren't necessary?
And regardless of, I mean, again, I find the original trilogy to be not only timeless classics, but just some of the best, the pinnacle of filmmaking in its day.
Yeah, absolutely.
And still the pinnacle of filmmaking, existent beyond that. But it's like you're kind of becoming what I think, is it Christopher Tolkien, who...
That's J.R.R. Tolkien's son.
Yeah, and he even derided, like he wrote off the original trilogy.
Yeah,
he didn't even like those.
No, he was very staunchly against any adaptation of his father's works.
And it's funny because as much as we would all call him a stick in the mud, with that kind of point of view, it's like you're kind of proving him right now.
Well, this is exactly why he didn't ever want adaptations of his dad's works made, because he didn't want to see it devolve into this.
Right.
So yeah, now they are proving him right.
And look, I'm as someone who was curious but also very skeptical of things like Better Call Saul.
Yeah.
And yet it landed and hit the mark on the head, mainly because it's its own separate tale that Vince Gilligan told that still ties in with Breaking Bad but isn't a Breaking Bad clone.
It has its own reason for existing.
Right.
And that's I am not against franchises or continuing franchises when you actually have something worth saying. But it's not this idea of like... Tom Cruise and Christopher McQuarrie, who 30 years later said, we have a really interesting idea for a Top Gun sequel. This was a production company, Warner Brothers, saying, well, we have this untapped franchise. We need to tap that. So let's
we got a cash cow sitting over here. So we got to milk it for all it's worth. It
didn't come from a creative idea of, oh, hey, this would make a good movie. Let's do it. It came from, well, let's turn out a movie at any cost. And that's when you get these soulless productions that's all they are. They're to milk a dwindling profit. And I say dwindling because they have been. Well, people are getting tired to some extent. I mean, Apes obviously is.
But it's also, you bring up a good point. It's a little too late. I mean, this is a franchise. The idea of this, I feel like, it's been overtapped. I mean, with the MCU and its dwindling numbers, even Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, like that wasn't a sure bet.
No.
I mean, and even with the Transformers films, it's like they've waned in terms of, yes, they've been popular
almost every
worldwide
franchise now.
But Fast and the Furious, it's like it's
Star Wars.
They're losing money. That, you still have certain ones that are making money to the degree that it's making the studio happy.
You have diehard fans that are always going to see these products because they're never going to let go no matter how bad it gets. But I mean, it's sad.
I am willing to eat my words if this ends up dropping and it's a great addition to what we already have.
Oh, no. I mean, that would be my hope.
Agreed. I would much more rather be proven wrong in that sense than the opposite.
Yes.
My only concern is it has nothing to do with who's involved in it. It's just, why tell this story and why do we need it?
And that's okay. Furiosa comes out this weekend.
Perfect example.
And that's one thing. It's like, I want it to be good. Like everybody's like, oh, y'all are just bitter or you're hating on it. It's like, no, like those are like, I like the Mad Max franchise. And George Miller, he made those movies. He's making Furiosa. So I would hope, since he's the original creator, it'll still be good. But you can't trust anyone in Hollywood anymore. Like even like Peter, like I'm like, I have no reason to doubt Peter Jackson, but at the same time, I'm just so tired of franchises that even though he's attached, I'm like, that gives me some hope, but I still don't trust it because it still feels like an unnecessary movie.
Right. Yeah, and ultimately, I mean, who's to say that Jackson, I mean, look, he's got his Oscar, he's got his paydays with the original trilogy.
Well, and at this point
what's to say he's going to have the same passion for this project just because it's in the Lord of... I mean, look, I hope he is. I hope he has that passion and he has the same allure of
but it
or
can also
attention to
be
detail.
very easily one of those things where he's like, well, I love the property, so I want to be involved and help guide them, but at the same time, it's not my project.
And
so because he has
how
done
many
that,
Steven Spielberg produced films
Yes.
have we gotten where it was a labor of love and it was like, why did Spielberg put his name on this?
Look at Mortal Engines. Peter Jackson produced that because he loved the series, but it wasn't
Terrible
a very good. But yeah,
Terrible.
and it's like because while he produced it because he liked the book, he still gave free reign to the director, which I understand because Peter Jackson knows what it's like to not have free reign when you have a studio berating everything you do. But at the same time, it's like what was good about your movies was you, not whatever this guy's doing. And you could say that about Gollum. It's like it might be good, we don't know. Andy Serkis made that terrible Mowgli movie for Netflix, and he made the second Venom movie. So I'm like, and while I know like Venom was a studio project, at the same time you're still the director, and I'm not going to cut you slack just because you just showed up to turn out whatever Sony told you to turn out. I mean, that's still your project. You went along with it.
yeah. I mean, look, right now it's like just with the record that franchises have been on, there's no reason to look forward to this. I'm gonna be skeptical until I see the first trailer. And honestly,
I don't want 12, 20, however many Lord of the Rings movies. It's like the Infinity Saga was a thing in and of itself, and I love it. But then Hollywood decided that every franchise needed to be that. And as much as I love the Infinity Saga, I also curse it for giving Hollywood the idea that, well, we could turn everything into this massive universe that doesn't need to be, but if we think we can make a profit out of it, we're going to try.
Speaking of making a profit out of something, I mean, we had our first image of the new Superman.
Yeah.
James Gunn, just put it out there on Instagram, posted it and showed it, and everybody started memeing
suit.
it.
I have milquetoast feelings about the suit in and of itself, but the image in its entirety is just a terrible reveal. I'm like, he just looks so like, gotta go save the city again. Tired of this crap. It's like, oh, it's getting blown up behind him. One of the fastest men on earth just casually putting his boots on while people die behind him.
Yeah, it was a very bad image. And the fact that it got memed into oblivion of so many people putting, like someone put the Twin Towers from 9/11
The Twin Towers
is
good. Well, the one that Nerdrotic shared was the one of him like in the shoe store with from
the
Married
Payless.
and Children.
Yeah.
No, not Payless.
Oh.
That was the Nerdrotic shared one that was him in a shoe store with Ed O'Neill. It was like Married with Children. And
That's
it was,
great.
What's his character in that show?
Bundy.
Yes, Al. It's Al like sitting here trying to help him get shoes because Al worked in the shoe store. And I'm like, that's good. That's good.
That's fantastic.
It's funny because it's like James Gunn released this image to stop all these fake leaks of the suit to reassure people, no, our suit looks good. And then he releases it and people are like, that looks awful.
Yeah. Talk about TV, man.
And it's like baggy around the shoulders.
That's what I'm saying. It didn't even fit right. It honestly looked like maybe a dress rehearsal
Yeah.
where he was trying it on, getting it ready, and someone snapped that picture, and then they literally did Photoshop the background to the point where they were like, oh, yeah, we can release that and make it look like it's a spectacle.
It doesn't look very, like...
I just don't...
And again, the overall design of the suit, I don't... I get where, like, he pulled... There's different things of this he pulled from different parts of the comics history. I get that, but at the end of the day, I'm just kind of like... I don't know. Can't we just get a classic Superman suit? Like, and I mean, I understand you want to make it a little bit believable. You don't want it to look as goofy in live action, but at the same time, we're already suspending
I don't know.
our belief that
even to me though, the whole look was off because of his attitude. Like,
well, yeah,
it's just like he looks like he's just kind of haphazardly like.
Or
he's just lackadaisical, and he's just kind of like, I gotta go do this again, and like he's putting on his boots all slowly with something going on. It was like, this is not Superman.
He didn't look proud and hopeful,
no.
and it's like everybody didn't like Snyder's Superman because he was brooding, but this one looks like he's like just pissed off, like
he looked apathetic.
Yeah.
To me, he looked like
just
he didn't care.
Gotta wake up and put my boots on now.
And so to me, that just ruins I don't see of how. To me, this may have been, if you take out, Zack Snyder's Superman, and this was the first kind of Superman we have seen since maybe even that.
Since Christopher Reeve?
Well, that, or I would even say since Brandon Roth in the Superman Returns.
I forgot about him.
If this had been James Gunn even or maybe in the thick of the Infinity Saga, I could have seen people being like, ooh, oh man, like just kind of like, oh, it's just a production photo, but look, you're excited. But I can't believe, and I'm surprised at how in poor taste this photo was in terms of releasing it and them thinking it was a good idea.
Yeah.
Like it bolds, or it doesn't bode well for the direction it's already headed in. If you thought posting this was actually going to get people excited, and it did the exact opposite. You got completely made fun of, and it's been circulating as just one of the
because now they're just going to the fence that
memes in the last week.
Now they're just going back to blaming the fans. It was like, well, there's nothing. No matter what we do now, nobody's ever satisfied. It's like because. You don't like the only thing people want you to do is be faithful to the comics. It's not that hard, but because it's because they don't actually understand the comics they think they love. Like I understand James Gunn is a comic book nerd and fan, but the themes that he wants to try to insist are in the comics are not the themes that most fans would say Superman represents, because Hollywood doesn't like those themes. The idea of someone who stands for truth, justice, and the American way is not good. They think that's outdated, or that's bad, or America's not a good place anymore. Why would you want somebody who stands for that? And so they twist it into something else. Like, this is what Superman really is. And it's like, no, it's not. That is the exact opposite of what Superman has always been.
No, 100%. And you don't have any hope or faith that they're going to be faithful to the original material. You just don't. And I mean, anymore, they've continually defeated themselves by not adhering to the original content that they're going to butcher it, and they're not going to. They don't care. They just don't.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, they're like, well, we know what's best, and it's going to be a bunch of toxic fandom that's going to get in our way, and we're going to tell the story we want to tell because we still think it has merit and it's better. And it's like, okay, just keep having that kind of hubris, because you're going to continue to piss people off. And even if this is a huge hit, clearly people are going to show up just to see, can James Gunn deliver? Can this new direction of DC deliver? Can it lead us into maybe giving some hope for the superhero universe as it is, to give Marvel competition that's healthy, a healthy dose of competition that leads them back into their A game? But so far, what everybody's gotten with every iteration post-Infinity Saga has just been awful. From the Marvel side, and of course DC's been in disarray for so long, and even the few little hits that they've had, the hidden gems, have obviously been completely thrown out the window. And also, I find it kind of funny that it's like, yeah, to a degree, Henry Cavill's getting vindicated. It's like you got rid of him as somehow some kind of typecast image that couldn't be fit into a new role outside of Zack Snyder. He insinuated
he was too old to play the character, but
it's
then
I see this guy and I'm like, okay, he's got a little bit more of a younger face, but nothing that Henry Cavill couldn't have passed off.
He looks like, well, everybody makes fun of it because he looks like great value Henry Cavill. It's like you literally hired someone who looks like an off-brand version of Henry Cavill.
right.
It's like,
and not to mention that you also know that we're still keeping Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman, supposedly.
No, from my understanding,
is she gone?
From
too?
my understanding,
gone?
everybody is gone now except for John Cena as Peacemaker, because James Gunn made that one. So of course he's not going to toss his character. And
isn't his wife in that one too?
Yeah,
she's involved in that.
And what's her name is still Amanda Waller. Basically, the people that were part of Peacemaker and Suicide Squad in that aspect, that anybody that worked with James Gunn still has a job, basically. Yeah. And the guy who played Blue Beetle for some reason, I still don't know why that one's still staying. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I forgot.
Probably because that one came
newer.
Well, I was thinking, they said, well, he's going to still play Blue Beetle in our universe, and then when it flopped, I guarantee you, like, we don't see him again. If we see him again, it's going to be a long time.
Yep.
And by that point, he probably won't still be the same actor.
It won't.
It's just
the only
funny.
reason they were saying is because they didn't want to admit it was a flop, and plus he's Mexican.
Yeah.
So they
diversity. Yeah, we can't. Yeah, but
it wasn't because he was Mexican that it flopped. It was a bad movie.
Because season 1 of Peacemaker is not part of the new continuity, but season 2 is going to be, and I'm like, that makes no damn sense. You can't say season 1 of a show is not part of the new DCU.
None of it makes sense.
But season 2 is, but season 2 is still a direct follow up to season 1, so that means that season 1 has to be like, it's so stupid and convoluted. And I'm like, all you have to do is completely reboot it. If you're going to go that route, you have to completely reboot it. You can't try to say,
Agreed.
Well, I like the fact that I'm making Peacemaker, so I don't want to abandon it. Well, too bad. If you're going to reboot everything, then reboot it all.
I agree completely. But we also got some great happy news.
Yeah.
Cable's back, baby. Cable's here to stay. That's right. The cable deals of yesteryear
hasn't gone anywhere.
It's not gone anywhere.
But
and this is funny because the headline only mentions one new bundle.
Yeah.
That is coming out. But we've got news today that broke about another bundle. So let's talk about the first one. The first one, it broke a little bit last week, I think. It was towards the end of the week. A Disney Plus bundle coming that is going to include Adobe Max. It'll be Disney Plus, Hulu, and Adobe, or not Adobe.
I was sorry. Wait, Adobe Max.
Did I say Adobe?
You did.
I meant I don't know why.
Your brain, but Max, as
Adobe
in like formerly
Max,
HBO Max. But
Adobe Max is their press conference every year where they announce.
I know what Adobe
Premiere
Max is.
I
just think it's funny that I was like,
I don't know why that popped in my head.
Yeah.
And honestly, it clearly shows you that HBO Max's branding didn't. Why'd you drop HBO?
Yeah,
everybody knew what HBO was. But yeah, so this new plan, there's really no. Other than the announcement of it, there's no details as to what it's going to cost.
I did see an ad today on Facebook, and I don't think this was about that bundle. I think this is just a thing they already do, but like you can add HBO Max as kind of like an add-on to Hulu for an extra $15.99 a month. And I think that's the same thing Prime does, where you can add like Stars, Max.
Right.
It's like, but I think with this, what we're talking about now, like they're actually going to have a bundle the same way Disney has the Disney Hulu ESPN bundle. There'll now be like an additional bundle with Disney and Warner Brothers teaming up to where you can get Disney, Hulu, ESPN Plus, and Max.
No.
No ESPN?
No ESPN.
They did mention a separate type of sports bundle. I forgot.
So there's another sports bundle coming later in the fall, but this one is particularly, and that's what kind of made it buzzworthy, I guess, is that it's Disney Plus, Hulu, and Max, your entertainment type
Which
aspect.
is funny because I already have the Disney Hulu ESPN bundle. If I wanted to bundle Max with that, like I would think.
Is that even going to be available?
It's like that would be more preferable to me, but then Sean brought up a great point, and I agree with him. Does the bundle include like any version? Because I can easily see them being like, these are bundled, but you only get like the 1080p HD version or the version with ads. You don't get like, the full 4K ad free.
And the thing is we're only about a month or so out from this apparently hitting.
Yeah, they
the
offered not really any details about it. Same with the other bundle, which was
it's Netflix, Apple TV Plus, and Peacock.
Yeah,
which funny enough, I was a little bit more intrigued. Jinx, you owe me a Coke.
That's only because Raw's going to be on Netflix, and the rest of it's currently on Peacock. And if you have a bundle, you got all of wrestling.
True. And the fact that there are still, whether it's The Office, like you said, wrestling, or with Netflix, there's still stuff that comes out on Netflix that I intentionally don't subscribe to Netflix because of ever since they started cracking down on the password sharing. It pissed me off, so it's like I only subscribe, which I know it's still eaten into the way they like to do things, because all they care about is, hey, well, we got you for a month.
Yeah.
But what I do find funny is that while their revenues have increased, because the ebb and flow of how easy it is to cancel your subscription is what is driving all of these streaming services to try to find new ways to bundle themselves. And it's funny that this initiative for Netflix, in particular with Apple TV Plus and Peacock, is being headed by Comcast, and they're calling it the Stream Saver package. And again, no details on exactly what the cost of the bundle is going to be.
But you have to have some type of service with Comcast in order to get it, is what
Probably.
I was reading. You have to have either, I think they said like Xfinity Internet, I think Comcast. I was reading that it's like it's a bundle for those that already, like,
There's
which
a catch.
Which is kind of funny because it's like, okay, if you have like Comcast cable, I guess you might still want streaming services. See, I don't have cable at all because I think it's pointless at this point. It is funny. We mentioned like one of the very first shows we did. I remember when we talked about the death of cable, and we had predicted that it would be gone in a few years, which it's managed to limp on past what we thought it would. But I do remember you specifically had mentioned that you thought one day streaming service would have kind of like just like cable packages where this package you get these channels, this package you get these channels. It's like streaming services are going to start offering bundles where, you know, this package you get these streaming services, or if you want the, and it's funny that you now see that happening and that's coming true because it's almost like the only way they can survive at the moment. They haven't all figured out how to be profitable yet. And part of that is the business aspect. I'm not opposed to it because if I can get all three services at a cheaper price than paying for them individually, that's awesome. But at the same time, I feel like part of this is only coming about is because they are churning out so much crap that nobody wants to subscribe to.
Well, that's what I find interesting. One, the details are so sketchy that I'm still, it's like, okay, what's the cost? And like you said, what kind of tier am I getting here? What's included? And if you do offer it at this tier, can I pay a little bit more and upgrade to this tier? But is that the same kind of experience I'm going to get across platform? Because now all of these platforms have different variations of whether it's, do they add, put ads in it? Do they add a lower quality tier and that's what their low tier is? Like there's different, it breaks down on each service how they handle the different tiers that they offer. Mm-hmm. So how does that come together in a bundle when you're offering these services together? And then like you said, there's the catch with I've got to be a Comcast subscriber of some kind in order to get this bundle. So how much is that going to really cost? And like you said, all that being said, when it comes down to it, why are you bleeding money to begin with? Mm-hmm. Is it ultimately because, you have a company like Netflix, and we've talked about this before, where you're hemorrhaging money because you're the only third-party service that has to buy out all these deals, whereas so much of these other services have a back catalog. But funny enough, people aren't paying for that back catalog, or maybe they are, and they just can't foot the bill for the original stuff that they keep pushing down your throat to say, hey, look over here. This is the reason you want our streaming service, because we got this original content you can't get anywhere else. Okay, that's great. I don't want that. I want the old stuff. Mm-hmm. Oh, but we need all this extra money to fund this other crap that we're putting on there to drive our engagement with the viewer to say this is stuff you can't get anywhere else. What if I just want to go to Peacock and watch The Office? Yeah. What if that's it? I don't care about an Office reboot. I don't want that crap. I don't care about other stuff that you're only putting on there because, this is what you think is going to sell people on your streaming service. Maybe all I want is just the stuff that is your back catalog.
Most of the newer original content isn't worth it. It's like if I use Disney Plus, it's for back catalog because I haven't watched some of the, like, I watched Loki season 2 because I liked season 1, but I didn't watch Secret Invasion, and I still have no desire to. I've not watched any of the Star Wars shows in I don't know how long, because I have no desire to. They have, I know Doctor Who, we mentioned it dropped, not watched it. I'm like, all your new content I no longer care about.
Well, there's just also, and that's another thing, the noise. There's so much original content.
It's too much, honestly.
Yeah, there is. There's not enough.
I like Star Trek. I haven't watched any of those either because when you have 6 shows going at the same time, I'm just like, I can't keep up with this. And it's like, I'm not going to try anymore. It's like, I still have the original series I like. I have Next Generation. It's like, I can go back to the things I like because I know I'm going to enjoy them and I don't have to try to constantly juggle. I need to see this show, but then I need to see this show because it's a spinoff of that show. Right. And then this show ties in and I'm just like, I'm not.
And isn't it weird that, and it's like, I want to give credit where credit is due in certain circumstances. I mean, there are some Netflix productions and even originals on other streaming services. I'm
not everything. I'm not going to say everything's terrible.
Hold on. I'm calling out Netflix because I know that they were one of the first ones that started original programming on a streaming platform. Yeah. And they spearheaded this effort that now everybody's jumped on the bandwagon. And we here too, we're all about streaming and saying, not only is it the cable killer,
they made great shows,
but
for a time
it was, and they were quality, and yet it seems like we're now in this weird space where not only just Netflix but all the streaming platforms are creating things that are still high quality in terms of production value, but lower quality than what we were getting before.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like they want to add in this flavor of, like you said, all these Star Trek series, and they want to have it have the same kind of quality that you came to expect when back in the 90s you were watching Next Generation,
mm-hmm.
and it was amazing, but you're like, well, yeah, it's a TV production and it's on network television. It's going to have to bring the goods because it's a huge audience, and they're only going to spend that kind of money on something they know is going to be a success.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the same now where you want these smaller niche pieces of content to have that same kind of luxurious production value, but you don't have the audience to back up and justify it. They're not tuning in, and even the ones that are tuning in and that are the diehard fans either walk away after a few episodes because they tap out because there's too much, or the fan base just isn't large enough. I mean, I hate to say it, but it kind of makes me want to go back and get, give it some love. But I've just recently turned out that X-Men 97.
Oh yeah,
I've seen rave reviews. From
it's
it.
Actually
people were
actually. I'm not going to say it is completely like. There are still a few phrases in there that are definitely there's some woke. There's woke-ese. I don't think the show is necessarily woke. I'll give an example from Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes when you meet the orangutan character and he's like, "Oh, my village is gone." And he's like, he was my village. And at first, because it didn't go there at all, it's fine. But when he first says it, I'm like, are they insinuating this monkey's gay? Yeah. But
thought the exact same
because
thing.
you never know anymore.
Yep.
And it didn't go there at all. And I'm like, okay, no, I don't think that's what they were insinuating, because he mentions how they were the last of the ones that like followed Caesar's teachings and blah blah blah. And I'm like, okay, I think that's not what he meant.
Agreed.
But because you never know, and there's moments in X-Men 97 where they'll say something that I'm like, okay, this story isn't woke, but that line, like, there's one mutant specifically when he's being attacked by a group, which granted this group was in the original X-Men cartoon. They're in the comics. They're basically a bigoted group that hates mutants. That makes sense. It's not. But the one younger mutant that they're attacking literally says, like, "Why are you doing this? I can't help I was born this way." And I'm like, okay, within the context of him being a mutant, that's 100% true. But at the same time, you can't help but think of, LGBT. Yeah. And granted, the show is good. Like, I'm not knocking it, but there's just times where I have to pause and be like, what do you really mean here? So,
well, and sadly, because of the bad faith that Disney has had, I mean, I didn't even bring this up earlier, and I meant to in our string of headlines that we weren't covering.
Yeah.
I mean, just today it dropped that Disney was the theme park was getting rid of Tinkerbell because she actually
apparently that's not
woman.
necessarily new news. It's just people didn't really know. It's something people noticed. There used to be a sign up where she used to do a meet and greet because I think Sean that shared it or you?
Sean
shared it. So then I Googled it because I was curious because I was like, we went a few years ago.
I saw it from the Daily Wire. They posted it.
Okay. Well, when me and Miranda, we went several years ago to Disney World, and I was like, I'm pretty sure she was there then. So I Googled it, and like apparently at some point after COVID, like the sign where she used to do the meet and greet, they just took it down and she was no longer there, and they never brought it back. They never said anything about it. So then people kind of got curious of like, well, where's Tinkerbell been? So then Disney finally kind of came out and I don't know if it's an official, basically it was one of those things where they're like, well, we don't want her at the meet and greet because it sends off a bad like body positivity message. Like This is it's like,
oh yeah, no, the statement is absurd.
Because a fit blonde woman is like, it's like, oh, you should feel like, we don't want to make fat people feel bad that the Tinkerbell who's a fairy is not a fat fairy, I guess. I don't know. I mean, it's stupid. It is absurd. You're right.
And that's what I think is just crazy about you just don't know anymore, especially with Disney, how far they're going to push it and how, infested with, leftist wokies that they have there. And so I will say that it wouldn't surprise me if it was, and honestly, a lot of the talk early on with some of those instances that leaked.
None of that stuff appears in the show. It's funny because the producer had said that, like, he's like, in our canon, Morph is whatever. I forget the term. Not
non-binary.
Non-binary. Thank you. I knew it wasn't bisexual. So And it's like, but apparently I guess that's just their headcanon because they never go that route in the show. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. I guess if they want to think that, whatever. But yeah, when that released, it does. It makes you concerned. And then you watch a few episodes, and like I said, like that one character saying, you know, I can't help I was born this way. I'm like, where are they going? Even like Magneto gives a big speech that is very iffy about like being free to love whoever you want to love, and of course it's all within regards to mutants, which is fine because that makes sense, but it's just one of those things where it gets very on the edge of,
they know what they're doing,
of like what are they doing here. And I think the show is well made, but it's one of those things where I've only seen the first 3 episodes, so I can't speak for the entirety of it, but I agree with you. I keep seeing great things about the entirety of it, and I do want to give the rest of it a chance, but I just I'm fearful of I'm waiting for that other shoe to drop. Like,
but the
I
weird thing
expect it to happen.
Like you said, I've seen so many good things about it in the series as a whole that people are actually now regretting having called it woke garbage without having seen the whole thing, that they're not kind of backtracking and saying, no, this is something that needs to be
when everything else has been woke. Exactly. You have no reason to believe it won't be.
And not only that, but that's what I'm saying is like when you've lost the good faith and will of the people, it's like, what else do they have
people
to go
are actually
on?
Calling for that's what's the crazy thing is because people, when the creator of the show was fired and they've never said why, nobody has any clue why.
They want him back.
But they want him back. And it's funny because at first people didn't like the idea of him being involved because I think he is bisexual, and he has an OnlyFans page, and this was known by Disney when they hired him. Because they people are thinking, well, was he fired for OnlyFans? It's like, no, because they already knew he had it when they hired him, so whatever they fired him for has to be something different.
Or they just didn't think it would ever be discovered or create bad publicity.
But I mean,
they had to have known.
It was well before like the show came out that people were already aware. That's why I'm like, I don't think
they didn't care or they didn't think people were going to find out on a mass level.
The backlash about it possibly. I think they were trying to get out ahead of the idea of like, no, it's not going to be woke. It's see, look, he's gone and this and that. And it's not woke, but now people are like, okay, but then maybe you shouldn't have fired him if he's going to be faithful to the comics and not put his own politics into the show, then that's fine. Like he can have whatever beliefs he wants.
But here's the thing, and we have no idea if that's the case either.
We don't.
Because look, we were just talking about this the other day about some other like kids show on Netflix that I sent out a clip.
Well, the whole season's out now. Well, I think there's one last episode.
No, there is.
Okay.
But my point is for future iterations or a season 2, you never know because this is what we've seen with other series is they hook you in.
Yeah.
And then it's only once you're invested that they flip it, and then all of a sudden somebody's gay or somebody's trans.
His whole season 2 is still, that's the thing, like, it will be interesting to see, and maybe when season, because he did work on season 2. I think all of the scripts for those were done before he was fired. So it's very possible we might see something there. I don't know. But what happens if season 2 comes out and it's an even bigger hit and people like it even more? Then it's like, okay, the guy that made the first 2 seasons is gone. You better hope season 3's still good because that would cause some backlash. But
even all that to be said, we got off on an X-Men.
I love X-Men, and I actually was kind of excited that to have good X-Men again. Like I'm looking forward to watching the rest of the show and hopeful that it doesn't turn into that. But
all in all, we still don't know what's to come of these bundles. I just think it's interesting that these streaming services are no longer trying to go in single-handedly to destroy their competition. They're trying to do an a la carte and somehow divide up the pot. And I'm like, well, maybe you should just present, go back to making things that people actually want to watch, or being a little bit more heavy-handed and critical of what you put out first before thinking, oh yeah, well, just people will eat this up and this is what they're asking for and this is what they're craving. And it's like, there's so much stuff out there that's just half-baked garbage. I wonder why you're in the red. But all that being said, I think we're ready to move on to our final segment of the night.
Let's do that.
Let's move into, our story time segment.
It's story time, where the podcast members tell their stories.
In honor of Mother's Day, I wanted to kind of bring about a story time about our moms. So I figured we would tell a mother-son story.
I was going to hit the Mario button about with Roger Corman.
It didn't work?
It's not. Yeah, they're not on here.
Wow.
And I meant to say something when we were talking about Roger Corman, but then we actually started talking about.
Oh, look,
him.
and there's a system update too. Wow.
I mean, you don't gotta launch it now. I meant to say something back when we were discussing Roger Corman, but then I didn't want to interrupt that discussion just for the pad because I actually wanted to pay. I wanted to pay respect to him.
But we got to do it now.
We got to get it launched.
I launched it.
You want to explain the?
I said a mother-son story.
Oh, just any mother-son. I thought like something actually specifically related to.
Should be up now.
It's working! It's working!
Yeah.
Oh, look, install updates. Well, we'll skip this version for right now.
Aww.
And although that's probably the update we need for it to. No, but yeah. So I wanted to talk about it, because Mother's Day was on Monday. You could talk about a story that you have from that day, how you spent it, celebrating your mom, or you could talk about another story of.
I said, thanks for birthing me, Mom.
Thanks,
and then I
Mom,
gave her
bye.
a hug and said, I'll see you again next Mother's Day. No, that'd be horrible.
That'd be terrible.
That would be.
Treat your
poor
mom
mothers
that way.
out there. I don't know. I mean, there's so, I guess I have to think of, because, we all went over there for dinner and everything. And, we brought her gifts and we just, sat out on the back deck talking and spending time with each other. And, I have plenty of stories from childhood. I remember... I'm just trying to think which one to tell. As far as
I'll start out with one that I remember. I might have told it on the show before. I can't remember in what context, but it might have been something similar.
Mm-hmm.
But it was something that my mom did with each one, me, my brother, and my sister.
I know the story. I don't remember if you've ever told it on podcast.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Though.
I don't know. So I figured, this would be a good time to tell it.
Go for it.
But yeah, it was just something that she did with all three of us, me, my brother, and my sister. But it was a total surprise, and she just told us. She said, "There's going to be a day where we're going to go, we're going to school, every day. It starts out like every other day, just completely normal, except there will be one day where we don't go to school, and we just have a whole entire day full of fun, and we just go do whatever you want to do, and we're going to call it Fun Day." And I was extremely ecstatic about this. I can't remember. My sister ended up not having one. She had a 16th birthday party that was a luau themed. They went all out on that for her. So that was how she chose to spend her fun day. For me and my brother, we both did have surprise days. And for me in particular, I was sent over to my aunt's house to catch the bus over there. So my mom would take me to my aunt's house, drop me off where I would catch the bus. And this one, every day she said I would always we'd get to the corner where I'd turn down my aunt's street and there's a stop sign. And every time we get to that stop sign, I would always ask her, is today fun day? And I was just so eager
you were.
to have fun day. And she'd look at me and she'd smile and she'd go, "No, today's not fun day." I'm like, okay. So then there was just this one day that I asked. And of course, sure enough, she said, "Yeah, we're not going to school today because today's fun day." And I was like, "What? Oh my gosh." I was ecstatic.
Yeah.
And I remember going we first, I think, went to McDonald's and I got breakfast.
Nice.
I think pancake breakfast is what I wanted from McDonald's. Then we went to go see a movie. Went to go see Tim Allen in Jungle to Jungle. It's a kid's movie at the time.
I'm okay with that one.
If you think about it too, it's weird. I thought about this too.
I like Jungle
At
to
least
Jungle.
when we were younger, and maybe it's still the same. Maybe it's just animated movies more so now. But I always felt like there was always at least one or two kids movies that were all the time in the theater.
Yeah.
You never really had a drought of we can't go to because there was always something to take a kid to go see as a fun activity.
You got If coming up, but that's not
But I'm thinking of in the last several months, I'm trying to think of a movie that came out that was a kid's movie. And again, I might be overlooking them because we don't review them.
As far as live action goes, no. Animated definitely pops up way more often, but even one of those I can't think of.
It's and when they do those
Kung Fu Panda 4 was recent.
Well, that was.
But
that was
again,
a month ago.
again, it was still an animated movie. As far as live action, children's films.
And in general, just always having something in the theater that's a fallback on. You could go see this. It's rated G. It's rated. There's some stuff that is out there, I think, that are family films, but nothing geared towards kids like all the time. Whereas I feel like when we were little, there was always at least something that you could go to the theater and see as a kid, or that your parents would take you to.
I mean, I got, not skipping school, but I mean, a couple movies my mom took me to, but we'll get to that after your story.
but yeah, no. So we went and saw that in the theater, and then afterward, I think I wanted to go to Toys R Us to pick out a toy, and my mom went. No, I did have a price limit; I couldn't get anything. But basically, I could just walk down the aisle and I could find whatever I was interested in. I remember I got this, I was into Beetleborgs at the time, this old terrible children's cartoon.
That was awful.
I
loved it too. I had some of the toys. Not like I had way more Power Ranger toys, but I did have I think like 2 Beetleborgs.
Yeah. And I mean, and it was funny because it was clearly piggybacking off of like the Power Rangers.
Oh yeah,
crowd.
it was the same thing of let's take this property from Japan and we'll film like live.
Was it Saban? Did Saban do Beetleborgs?
Saban, yeah.
Oh wow.
I think so.
I don't know.
They did like a lot of those. They would purchase these Japanese shows. They would film like kids in America, like segments of like the kids, and then when they turned into the superhero, basically the Power Rangers.
That was when they would cut.
That would be the Japanese footage of them fighting monsters and stuff. So yeah.
But
I think VR Troopers was another one.
VR Troopers, I love VR
Troopers.
There's
another one I can't think of that was around the same era. That was the same concept, but I can't think of what it is.
But I mean, like, just all in all, that ended up, of course, taking up the whole day. And I remember getting home, and of course, I was just ecstatic that it was, it was just a really, really fun story that I remember from my mom.
McDonald's, the movie, and was there something else or just those things?
Went to Toys R Us.
Oh,
to
Toys
pick
R
out
Us.
A toy. And,
that's right. You got the Beetleborgs. Yeah.
And it's funny because looking back. And obviously, I wouldn't know this as a kid, but looking back, I remember my brother, he got a 32X. On his fun day. I'm like, looking back, that was a way bigger toy than what I ended up getting. Back then, I didn't know the price of things.
You didn't care, though.
I didn't care.
I say you got what you wanted.
Exactly.
He got what he wanted.
Right.
It just happens he wanted something that was
a lot.
Your mom probably
more pricier. And she would have not bought it now because she would have been like, this thing's going to flop in a year. And we ended up not having another console to the PlayStation, but that 32X was like, it was a flop.
Yeah. Well, nobody at the time, I guess, realized that. True. But yeah.
All my mom says, that works with the Sega that you already have. Okay, that's fine.
It's an add-on.
But, I mean, it was just, again, fun day. Had a great time and a great mother-son story.
Yeah. Didn't skip school, but there were actually two movies that like my mom had taken us to kind of as a surprise. Bigger one being the Rugrats movie, the first. She didn't tell us. We just went to the theater, and that was that was really awesome.
That was a big one when it came out.
We're going to the. I don't even remember. I don't think she even told us we were going to the movies. We just went to the movies, and I was like, "Oh, awesome!" And then we saw Rugrats, and that was awesome. And the other one, which is still a movie I absolutely love. It's I think a very underrated movie. It's not well known in my opinion, but it was Cats Don't Dance, which is an animated film from.
No, I don't know that one.
I think Warner Brothers did that one. I have to look it up. I think it was one of the few they did, kind of like with like Iron Giant, like back in the '90s, where they had some of the. But yeah, I bought it on Vudu several years ago because you can't. It's not on anything, and even the Vudu movie is only like in SD.
Wow.
But but I bought it just because I really wanted to watch it again, and it's a musical. The concept is it's kind of funny because it would fit kind of in today's day and age, but I would say it actually had a solid message back then instead of the woke message, but almost a Zootopia type thing where it's about a cat who wants to go to Hollywood and become famous as an actor, but when he gets to Hollywood, all the animal actors, because they're anthropomorphic animals, but they also live in the world with actual people. So you have people and then the animals.
Gotcha.
And the animals in Hollywood are only allowed to have roles as basically like livestock. Like they're not allowed to have like actual good roles and this and that. And they're kind of mistreated and downtrodden and like, oh, y'all are lower class and the people are upper class. And it's a really fun movie because it harkens very much back to the 50s era of Hollywood and like the golden age of Hollywood, and it has that type of like the songs are that type.
I'm guessing this is akin to like a slave type movie.
No, they're not. Actually, the movie
message of like, oh, but this is what like black people were relegated to.
It's kind of, I think,
like a civil rights,
kind of an allegory.
Yeah.
It is a civil rights allegory, but it's actually like one that you would say, like you would agree with. Kind of like X-Men are kind of a civil rights allegory, not necessarily an LGBTQ allegory. They're trying to force it into.
Right.
It's like I fully agree with the civil rights message, but when we're trying to warp it into other things that aren't the same is where I have a problem. But yeah, it was just a fun movie. I very much remember that one, and she did take us to that. Out of nowhere, don't even know how she found out about it or where it came. It might have been, like you said, just one of those times where like it was in theaters, and it was like the only children's movie in theater, and she took us to see it. And I think part of that too was because it was kind of fun. Even more so for me now, like having revisited a few years ago than at the time, because I didn't really understand all the golden age of Hollywood references. Because even the villain is this little girl that's basically a Shirley Temple stand-in, and it's hilarious. And I'm just like, it's kind of cool when you look at Hollywood that didn't have their heads up their butts, and how they could pay homage
what they could actually do.
Because it's not, like I said, it's not the best movie ever made. Like I said, I'm sure. But I mean, for what it was at the time to go unnoticed, I'm like, that actually had some wit to it and was actually something that was the songs I love. The only other person I think who knows it and who's seen it, of course, with his love of animation as well, is Nathan. I know Nathan has seen it, and he's talked about how like we've talked about, both of us, how we felt it's an underrated movie. But yeah,
but. I mean, yeah, it's just in honor of Mother's Day. Wanted to bring up some times that we spent with Mom.
Moms do things.
How much they show us love, and
Mom was always responsible for like the Kentucky Kingdom season passes. I remember that because
true.
Just because like she wanted to like to have something we could do, and I mean I know like we did Holiday World mostly with the youth, but that was still like things that like my mom always wanted to make sure we got to do that because
I'd say even going on trips in the summer, vacations, and it's like,
that was playing. Like it's not that I think dads don't care about that thing, but when it comes to the planning,
they're preoccupied with other things. I mean, they're preoccupied with the bills and keeping lights on and making sure that the amenities are taken care of. And again, that mom is happy, but it is funny because it's like I remember there were definitely times where it was like, of course. It took both my mom and a dad, like a joint partnership, to give us a great Christmas. Yeah. But there were plenty of times where my dad, after we were done ripping open presents, he'd look at me. He's like, "No, look, none of this nice stuff would be here if your mom didn't want y'all to have it." And I'm just like, "Thanks, Dad." So you're telling us. He's like, "I would have spent the money on you."
Well, and that's what's funny, because I think that's why also the moms plan the vacations, because it's not that dads don't care, but honestly, think about it. It's like. Basically, any vacation, like the dad just could be like, yeah, like he's like, you want to go, like you're gonna do, like it's like, if it's up to me as a man going on vacation, I'm perfectly content sitting in my house for a week and just not having to work. So it's like, yeah, you kind of need the female to say, hey, let's go to Florida or let's go to Myrtle Beach
and
or let's go.
Like, okay, that sounds good.
So yeah, that's fun. Sure. That's like it's like I could be at home in my recliner, but that's fine too.
Well, and because again. The dad is thinking in so many ways of like, okay, but yeah, it's fun for everybody. I've got to make sure everything stays on track. It's like I got to focus on like, all right, we're not on track, but again, you don't want to lose a kid.
Priorities are different. Not to say that they both don't share.
I think
the same
a man
priorities,
just immediately goes into survival mode of like what will go wrong or can go wrong will go wrong, and so you immediately start thinking of all the different ways in which you've got to. Keep things from going wrong, and that's where your head is at. So immediately you don't think of, oh, this is going to be so much fun. As a kid, it's like you don't have to think about nothing but the trip.
No, you're just going
to enjoy yourself. You don't have the responsibility. Yeah, which is what part of it makes it fun. And it's thankfully moms that are sitting there saying, hey, we need to have this stress-free fun time for the kids just to enjoy every once in a while. And there's some of the best memories. Absolutely.
Fondest memories.
Alrighty, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of the Red Moon Podcast. Thank you all much.
Game over.
Oh, you need to do the one for, oh gosh. That's right, Roger Corman. He's gone, but not forgotten. Wow. As always, you can like, share, subscribe on all of our social media pages right there at the bottom of your screen. Red Moon Book on Facebook, Red Moon Tweet on X, Red Moon Pics on Instagram, and of course, search for Red Moon Productions on YouTube and Rumble. We are still live every week on Rumble. Our catalog is on there as well. I need to start putting the reviews on there too.
Yeah, you should do that.
And I need to make like a little lower third that includes Rumble. But yeah, like, share, subscribe. We appreciate all the love that you share with us there. And there's that old-fashioned way of reaching out to us. One way we can get you
through the electronic mail.
Yeah, you can tune into the show and we can read your email here.
Yeah. RMPodcast at redmoonproductions.com.
Just beautiful. Alrighty, guys, that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Until next time, I am one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside, no, not our normal new host. That's just his beautiful-looking chair with that nice Red Moon logo in it. He'll be joining us next week, though.
Yes, we have missed him.
Uh-oh. And too late. Too late.
We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. For more reviews, previous podcast shows, and everything Red Moon, visit our website, redmoonproductions.com. You can also like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter by searching for Red Moon Productions, LLC. We'll see you at the movies.